And hello, how are you doing? So, a bit of an impromptu stream, this one.
Yes.
We've decided that the time is about right to kind of pull back the curtain on our idle adventures, RuneScape idle adventures.
Indeed.
Because, well, frankly, like, first of all, introductions, actually. Mark and Osborne.
Mod Mark, hi.
That's it, and you've been kind of heavily involved in RuneScape idle adventures.
I've been a bit quiet on RuneScape for the last while, which is good because, it gives you a chance to flex your muscles. But also it means, I've been working on a few other things. And one of those things is RuneScape idle adventures.
Yeah, and for me, I mean, like, it's about a genre. It's a new genre that a lot of people might not have come across before.
Yes.
And in fact, if you came to me like a year ago, I had no idea of this genre.
I think I may have even come to you a year ago. Because I've been playing them for years. Idle games are. Is this where we're going?
I think
idle games are. So idle games are often described as games that play themselves or zero-player games. So they are games where you make a very small amount, but a very small amount of choices, clicks, actions. But they're very meaningful and they affect the way that your game progresses, and that game progresses on its own when you're not there. So it's all about offline progression. It's all about this kind of really compelling experience where you log in, you've got loads of money, loot, stuff like that to spend. You spend it, you upgrade a bunch of stuff, you optimize, and then you log out again. Very short amount of gameplay, perfect for kind of like bus stop breaks or something like that. And also they work really nicely as games that you can play as second screen games, which is often the way that we describe RuneScape. You can fish or chop down trees while watching videos or something like that if you want to. And this is very much the same kind of thing. So it shares a lot of sensibilities with RuneScape. Yeah,
so to give you a bit of a backdrop, you may not have noticed that we put together a news post that went out on RuneScape.com that announced Idle Adventures. We also had an event where we, our screening last week on Thursday.
Shiny.
Where we kind of showed some pictures. And what we really want to do with this live stream is give you a better indication of what Idle Adventures is, show you some pictures that you may not have seen before. I know we put some in the news post. And all in the kind of precursor to that is just kind of build up a sense of what an idle game is. And you've done a fantastic job of doing that. And I remember the first game that I came across was you sending an email around of Progress Quest.
Yeah.
And I think we've got Progress Quest. So this was kind of like the birth of the idle game?
Yeah, Progress Quest is about 6 or 7 years old now. It's had a few kind of expansions along the way. I think we're going to bring it up on the screen now. So this is a complete zero-player game. This is the extreme version of an idle game because all you do in this game is pick your name, pick your class, pick your race, and that is it. Then you just click a button and it kind of goes. And the character is off kind of questing and doing things. And the developer wrote it as a bit of a joke. And we're kind of saying, isn't it funny how we spend so many hours? Imagine if you did it for RuneScape.
It's kind of boiling down role-playing games, isn't it?
It's ultimately boiled it down. So you get to log in, look at all this cool progression, see what your guy's been up to.
Yeah.
But you can't influence it in any way at all.
I guess it's like logging into RuneScape and only doing your kind of check-in dailies. Yeah. Maybe kind of like, and that's how you'd only play RuneScape. It's almost that kind of...
Well, I think so.
But with additional
even more
strategy.
Extreme is you'd log in and you'd be like, your character has done this quest, your character has completed these levels, your character has got these items and their bank is full of all this stuff. And you're like, that's cool. But it's like, it's not engaging, right? You can log in, you can see what's going on, but you don't make any actions. And so there was then another round of idle games where people were making very similar things, but they were allowing you to click on a few things. And a perfect example of that is Cookie Clicker. That came, again, one of the early ones. I think Cookie Clicker's been around sort of maybe 4 years, I think, something like that.
And this is what you start seeing on people's screens at lunchtimes.
Yes, exactly.
So
just click on that click on that cookie. So there we go.
Enjoy, my John.
Our beautiful assistant is eating lots of biscuits there. And as you know, JMods are obsessed with cookies. So this did make a pretty big impact actually in the office. So you click on the cookies and then you get a load of cookies. And then you can use those cookies to buy stuff, which you can see on the right-hand side of the screen. So you can sort of buy grandmas and sort of farms where they grow cookies and mines where you can mine chocolate chips and factories, and basically all those things just give you more cookies. And then you can buy things which auto-click the cookie for you. And basically you're getting this larger and larger cookie empire, and you start playing around with stupid numbers. You can see the numbers on the left-hand side of the screen.
You're getting to millions of cookies.
Just millions of cookies. And you could log out and you could come back in sort of 4 or 5 hours and you'd have 17 subtopulent billion cookies. That is a proper number.
That is, yeah.
Yes. Then you kind of spend all your cookies and log out again. Now, again, this is the kind of this is the next step.
You can see this kind of progression in terms of like amount of interaction and stuff like that.
And then the kind of idle genre kind of evolved from there. It stopped being a bit of a jokey thing, and people started saying, actually, I'm quite enjoying this. And they were like setting that as their homepage. So they're logging in every day, they're spending their cookies, and you know they're actually quite engaged with it. Now, all of this is going on at the same time as we're playing RuneScape, but I can see on my friends list I've got people who aren't playing as much as they used to before because they've got lives, they've kind of grown up, they've got different kind of pressures on their life. And I talk to them and they're like, oh, I really want to play RuneScape, but I just haven't got enough time right now. And so we were thinking about this kind of way where we could offer a RuneScape-like experience, but in a much shorter play session.
Yeah.
And we've been looking at RPGs and we've looked at all sorts of different things. But I kept coming back to this concept of an idle game. Like, why couldn't you take this principle and build in a kind of RPG backbone to it? You know, have items that you can equip but choose, have quests that you can go on, have skills that you can level. So you're making all those key choices about what your character's going to be doing and how he's going to be doing it, but you're not doing all the work. So you get that joy of progression, and you get that buzz of questing and picking the right items for the right jobs, and like it works. And then, of course, there was let's wait for him to move away from the screen, and then
he's assumed he's not going to have to do any more work, but we're going to stop him.
So around this time, idols start getting really, really big on mobile. And one of the games that really made a massive impression on us is this game on the screen at the moment, and this is called Adventure Capitalist. And this is a cute little game where you're basically trying to make a kind of massive corporate mega structure of companies that are making you lots of money.
Yes.
You start off with a little lemonade stand, and you upgrade that, and then you buy, and then you get a little manager for your lemonade stand, and then he runs your lemonade stand
so you no longer have to click all the time like with Cookie Clicker.
And then you get bigger and bigger businesses, and you do more things, and then you start getting angel investors, and then you can go up to the moon and to Mars and all sorts of crazy stuff. And the nice thing about this is, and with a lot of idle games, there's this real kind of comedic kind of vibe to it, and I think that's something that runs in the kind of, you know, the DNA of RuneScape.
That's it. They get
that kind of jokey kind of very British humour. And actually, this did it very well. And I was very surprised to learn that this game was made by a bunch of Canadians. And we were thinking to ourselves, well, we want to do more things with RuneScape. I'd been looking at idle games. Actually, made a prototype with what's his name, Mod Tim C.
Mod Tim C. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I, of course, know what his name is, but that's his mod name. That's what the players will know him as. He did Lunar Diplomacy,
and therefore Live With Farm. But he did the history quests.
Did the history quests. Like, he's a really
Barbarian
Assault. He's a really well experienced RuneScape developer, and we kind of played around with the concept of idle games for a while. But they're quite difficult to make. So one day, you know, the marketing guys, good old Mac, he says, why don't we contact them and see if they'd be up for making a game with us? And that's the thing I really want to stress, is that this collaboration with Hyper Hippo, because that's the company that makes Adventure Capitalist, is a collaboration. We're very much working hand in hand to make the game. I'm involved, and lots of us are involved. You've been involved from a law perspective, and we've been talking a lot about the artwork and things like that. Like, we are getting involved with the design and the narrative and stuff like that, and they're doing all the work. Yes. They're doing all the development, the implementation, which is a great way of doing things. Because
we need to do this more often.
Yeah,
I like it.
But
that's important to people who are watching, because there will be inevitable questions or concerns about surely they could get them working on a quest, surely you could get them working on a skill.
Yes.
I don't think they would probably want to do that or be able to do that.
No, they're specialists they make a lot of different sorts of games, But this one was a real kind of breakout success. Did really well on Steam, did really well on mobile.
Yeah.
They've got a lot of really good contacts throughout the industry that we don't necessarily have because we're a PC-only game currently. So it's, it made sense to work with them. But it is definitely a collaboration. They're not going to do anything that we don't want to do. And actually, they're a really good bunch of guys to work with. They're hungry for our feedback. They want us to be involved. So it is a collaboration.
Yeah. I mean, you were talking about just how much of a RuneScape fan one of the designers is.
Yeah.
Which is, obviously great news. Because
So a lot of them have experience working at Club Penguin a long time ago. And Club Penguin was one of these games that they knew that they were losing a lot of customers to RuneScape, or at least not losing, but a lot of their customers were growing up
moving to
and wanted to play RuneScape. And so they kind of played around with RuneScape just to see what we were up to, and a couple of them got really hooked on it. And they're like, no, I totally get why our players are moving over to RuneScape because it's awesome. And they got really, really hooked. So one of them, we gave him a Zaros hat, and let him play around with some
Over
god
the
swords.
moon.
Oh my god, he was like a kid in a sweet shop.
Yeah, it was great. I really
brilliant.
liked that. I remember some of the initial meetings. One of the things you really wanted to bring to Idle was a sense of narrative, was a sense of story.
Yeah.
And that's something that is different with what they're pitching.
Exactly. So we've just seen the way that Idle games have kind of grown over the years. So I kind of see this game as the next step.
Yeah.
Because Idle games are a bit of a hollow experience. Like, you do all your cool stuff and it's great, and I'm logging in every day, but I don't really feel like I
mean, you
have
could
a
probably
connection.
see that from the screenshots and the gameplay that we just saw. Some people might have been switched off by the lack of kind of theme or lack of narrative or interaction.
Yeah. Now, and that was right for those games.
Yeah.
But if you're going to make a game set in the RuneScape world, you want to feel like you have a connection to that world. You want to feel like the character that you're playing is, you projected onto the screen, or you want to feel like the choices you've made have some kind of meaning to your progression. And we wanted to bring the RuneScape world into Idle. So that concept of doing a quest and interacting with characters and choosing equipment and moving around a world and having a relationship with characters, we've got all of that.
And that it started from just kind of, progressing a character, and that was what the initial concepts were, and it's just moved on. It's like, now we want to navigate the world, we want to meet people, we want to meet important people.
Yes.
Like gods, for example.
Exactly. And the lovely thing about this is it allows us to explore some of the narrative angles that we haven't necessarily wanted to explore in the past.
Yeah.
Because we are limited. It's not a limitation. The players are the World Guardian, right? So there are certain things that make sense for the World Guardian to be involved with. But maybe there are other things going on in the world that are just too mundane, or, the villagers are like, why would I involve the World Guardian with this? Or wouldn't it be interesting if you could look at a traditional RuneScape quest, but the way that you would have done it as the World Guardian are not options that are available to you. Chat options and a piece of dialogue are not there. They're different things because...
So a cook's assistant from this character's perspective would be different from players.
Yeah, and I think that's quite interesting because I keep saying this to everyone, is the ability to look at RuneScape through a different pair of eyes. And that's fun because it means you can explore the same narratives, the same characters that you know and love in a different way. Yeah. And I think that that's going to be quite an interesting, quite novel experience.
So I think this is a good time to show you a first screenie. So
should we look at some questions?
Sorry. That's all right, no problem. So the questions that have come through from you guys are the obviously very pertinent ones. I was going to get there, but we can do them now.
Let's look at some screenshots.
So the top one that we have here is from No Fear RS. Will this have a pay-to-play element?
So we are absolutely 100% working on a game at the moment, which is free to play at its heart. So we want people to be able to play this game for completely free. There is obviously a business element to this, and Idle games do have a kind of strong history of microtransaction-like what do you call it? I've forgotten the word. Payments. That's the word. But very similar to our own. Yeah. In that there are things that might speed you up a little bit, there are things that might give you a boost, but ultimately you're going to want to play the game. There might be cosmetic things that you can buy, but people sort of chuck the kind of pay to win words around. That's not what we're trying to make. That's not our intention. I want to be able to give people a proper experience for completely free.
Yeah.
And if you want to pay the game, pay some money to get a little bit of extra, then that would be great. If people went and looked at Adventure Capitalist right now and looked at their own models that they've got in there at the moment, you get an idea of the kind of thing that we're looking at. They're not very aggressive in terms of their monetization. Neither are we, and we don't want to change that.
Grand. And the biggie, which is the release date.
Well, we never talk about release dates.
Yeah, well, it's the same with RuneScape. I mean, so many things change, so many things affect things. We've got a rough area.
Yeah, we keep saying spring.
Yep. They're so ridiculously fast. They're very good at iterating.
They're very, very quick. We keep talking about it being spring, so yeah, sometime.
So it's a Jagex soon.
Spring, early summer, I would expect it to be.
Marvellous. And can we have a cosmetic from the idle game like we got from Block and Loads? That's obviously, will this talk to RuneScape, the main game?
I quite like items which just sort of say, hey, I've gone and played this other thing. Jagex always describes it as a family, right? Yeah. And I don't think there's anything wrong with an idea like that. That's not something we're looking at right now, but I would be very surprised if we didn't have something like that.
Yeah.
So the important thing for me is a player never feels that they have to play the other games in the family, right? I don't want a kind of hardcore RuneScape player to say, I have to go and play this other thing. Yes, maybe you'd have to go and log in if you wanted to unlock a cool bit of cosmetic gear, but it's not like that gear is going to give you some kind of benefit over
And it's important to note that, we'll be showing some pictures of this. We've done all we can to integrate this into our storyline. You know, that it doesn't feel like a little kind of a satellite of, it doesn't matter to the RuneScape theme or story. No. So anything we put in game would be appropriate.
Yeah. Exactly, and that's something to be said for all this kind of family of RuneScape games that we're working on. They are in the same universe ultimately. They're not like a weird kind of offshoot. They are games that kind of exist in the same space and time. Yeah. And that is very much what this is as well.
That's it. But equally, you wouldn't have to play one to understand the other.
Yes.
Yeah. And we need an internet requirement. That's from Ashen Dice. That's testing you.
Oh,
I don't know.
Now that's a very good question. I do get really irritated with mobile games that require me to be constantly connected.
And I cannot remember if Adventure Capitalist does.
But so the way that this works,
we've got to know that.
I'm pretty sure that it just plays, and then when you've got your internet connection, it just kind of uploads your progression onto that. Yeah. Maybe that's how it will work. That would be what I would like to aim for, but we'll see. We'll see.
All right, so we've grabbed a couple of your questions, but let's start looking at some concepts. For example, you were talking about the character in this being somewhat different from the World Guardian. Yes. So let's start talking about the character.
So we wanted to... Can we bring up the KBD one first? Because I think that shows her off in the best light. There we go. So we wanted to create a character very different from the World Guardian, but we also wanted to have that same kind of RPG feel, that I could create a character, I could choose what it looked like, I can give it a name. So the character you can see on the screen at the moment is the character that we're calling Sally. Now, it does look a lot like Seren for some players because it is blue. Or
and there's the blue diamond.
Female Saradomin was was something that somebody else said to me the other day. And of course, there's the blue diamond. But that is a character called Sally. So that is one of the looks that a player might be able to achieve.
Yeah, that's important
when
to
they're
know.
Playing the game. Sally isn't a traditional hero in the way that you and I might think about them. Sally is a very different kind of character. Now, I don't want to talk too much about her backstory.
That's worth mentioning to me.
Because
I tend to leak.
I want it to be as exciting as possible. And also, it's quite a deep narrative.
Yeah.
And the narrative would evolve, and the narrative would be kind of understood by the player over time playing this. It's not going to all be immediately obvious to them, just like in RuneScape.
Yeah.
But she is very interesting, and she has a kind of strong connection to the world.
Yeah.
That's probably the best way that I could describe it.
This image is giving so many hints already. I mean, it's kind of placed Spot Bob the cat in this one.
Can you spot Bob the cat? And, it's deeply rewarding when you do actually see him. So one of the things that we were talking about with Hyper Hippo was creating some artwork with some iconically RuneScape things. And for us, KBD is like one of the big, like you see a KBD, you immediately, or you see a three-headed black dragon with kind of different coloured eyes, you're immediately going to think RuneScape. It's quite an iconic character for us. It's quite different as well from some of the other dragon-y type stuff out there in the ether. So this is, we asked the question, what would happen like if the three of them just got together, right? And they're just kind of kicking back, having a chat. She's drinking an extreme magic potion because, you know, that's what she does for fun. And she's just kind of having a chat.
I think that's quite a few doses.
I feel like Bob the Cat's just said something a bit offensive. And the King Black Dragon's like, what?
Say what?
And she's like, oh, you didn't go there. And like, I feel like.
Can the KBD snap?
Yeah, I expect he probably
I hope
so. Oh, you know, like the head thing.
Oh, that would look so good.
Yeah, if like all of them did that, girlfriend, that would be super cool. Yeah, so that's what I kind of imagine. So it's like stuff that goes on in RuneScape when the hero isn't there.
Yeah.
So we can have a bit more fun with it, right? We can still have our serious storylines.
Yeah.
And her storyline's pretty damn cool. But why not have a bit of fun with it as well?
Yeah.
Like, that's the plan. Indeed, cringeworthy. I noticed someone says that.
Oh.
That is a perfect piece of inspirationally cringeworthy, I like to think.
That's, I need that on my gravestone. He was inspirationally cringeworthy.
So yeah.
Let's go back to that original one, because people got a little sneak of it.
Yes.
And this just shows that you can do things that maybe the World Guardian can't. You know, kicking back.
I like this. So I think that she's just told a dirty joke to Seren there. She's like, yeah, whatever the dirty joke is that I wouldn't possibly say on a stream. Maybe she's saying, what happened to the blind circumciser? He got the sack.
Hey.
Maybe that's what's happening. And maybe she's like, oh.
I like the way you've just got a little kind of pocket of these.
Yeah.
You just kind of bring them out. That's amazing.
Yes. And then, so they're like just kicking back, and I like the idea of we'll call it the Sally character. Now, you're not forced with it being female, you're not forced with it looking like this, but the Sally character was just the one that we kind of came up with. And then, so in this, she's kind of got really made good friends with Seren, right?
Yeah.
She is kind of a special character in the same way as the World Guardian is a special character, but with completely different kind of roots. And then she's kind of, hey, I like Sarah, and she's pretty cool. Wouldn't it be cool if you could kind of have some kind of cosmetic stuff that you could do to show that you favour a certain god, or favour a certain character, or favour a certain environment, or whatever?
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we're playing around with there. So yeah, just this idea that she can just sort of kick back and just chill out, right? The World Guardian's like, oh my god, the world's going to end, all this crazy stuff. The gods are all fighting amongst each other.
Why so serious?
She's like, why so serious? Just get on with it, you know. You have your fun.
To be fair, I think we have got some shots of her getting into the midst of things.
We have.
There we go. So there will be some dramatic questing. I don't know. Maybe that's a hug.
So we have toyed around, like one of the things that you'll notice there is that she is massive in that picture, and some of the other pictures she's pretty big, and then some of the other pictures she's quite small. Hey, check that out! Isn't that cool? I won't
delve any further into that. We'll let people make their own assumptions.
Exactly.
I mean, this is No Fear RS asked, why is she 5 times the height of a tree, for example?
Because she can be.
Because she can be.
Yeah. Oh, very important, and I want to call this out straight away. She's not a god.
Right.
She is not a god.
There we go.
Right, very important to say that. I don't want people to suddenly think you're chucking a new god in the mix.
That's it. So Lorehounds start thinking,
But if the Lorehounds did want something to get excited about, and this is, I think, the thing
Where I
that
was
we're
going.
excited about, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, we wanted to see, I don't know how far I can go, I'm always wary of being spoilerific, but we talked a lot about how to kind of integrate her into the RuneScape narrative. And one of the things we allowed, we let it happen, was Elder Artifacts. Mm-hmm. And we have, I hope, a screenie of her perhaps using something.
So we have toyed, it's the
there we go, you got it.
So we've toyed we've got these grand plans about our Elder Artifacts, but the reality is we've kind of got a few. and there are lots of them.
Yep.
There are the ones that we've talked about in the past.
Yeah.
Who knows? Like, there could be more, there could be less, there could be artifacts that have been discarded.
Yeah, I mean, we kind of
like,
mentioned that there might be 12. You know,
Yeah.
we've shown 8.
Yeah.
What I like about it, so the importance of the Elder artifacts is that they've always got a use for the Elder gods. The Elder
Yes.
gods, who are these big, hulking, primal beings who created the world,
Yeah.
would have a use for this. And we was just sitting there trying to determine what this Elder artifact would do. And it just kind of kept on chaining on. They were like, what if it could do this?
Yeah.
And then it led to, and it kind of built into the storyline of the Idle game.
And so this is the needle. And she is using the needle to do some cool things with the threads of existence. It's
Yes.
probably the best way that we could describe it. I think that's about as big a spoiler as I want to give right now.
Yeah, it's not the Elder fishing rod, unfortunately.
It's not an elder fishing rod.
It's an elder needle.
We toyed around with different ideas. Like,
Yeah.
I like the idea of an elder bobbin. But we just thought it sounded a bit too much like a joke name, really.
Yeah, that's it.
So
Some people
there are
thought it was
different
bobbins.
ideas that we toyed around with, and then you guys come back and said, you know, the Elder artifacts are they feel like items that the Elder gods could use themselves. So
Yeah.
they've got a kind of primitive, but also quite a basic feel to them.
That's
which
it. They
is
can never be
how
too
we-
refined or
Yeah.
detailed in their construction. So this makes a lot of sense.
That's how we settled on the concept
Yeah.
of the needle in the end.
A good question from me. It's Devarin, I think. What age is it set in?
Now,
It's set in the now.
yes.
In the now. We kind of went backwards and forwards on this a little bit.
Yeah,
This was a
so-
discussion we had.
Yeah, it's difficult to describe exactly without giving too much away. But one of the things about idle games is you kind of progress and then you reset your progression. You prestige, effectively, is what it's called. And that's a weird principle to have in an RPG. So we kind of thought about different ways that this could work and kind of coming up with different ideas. I've completely forgotten where I'm going with this now. There we go. I've reset myself.
So it's about timelines.
Yes.
So of course, already it's
Yeah,
got
so-
a kind of, okay, what age is it in? But there is a
Exactly.
reset. Which,
Yeah, so it kind of changes things. So the thing that we've agreed is that the Sally character could be in this world. Maybe she or he or it already is. And she's just kind of doing, she or he or it is kind of doing their own thing. And the kind of the gameplay that happens within the idle game is the same time, but slightly different. Do you know what?
it's so
too many
it's,
spoilers.
Yeah, exactly. We're getting dangerously close to
I don't-
spoilers.
yeah.
But the closer
And
we
that
came to
ended
the
up making
modern
it
day,
sound really poor, but it's not.
the closer we are to the modern day, the more
Yes.
relevant we can make it to the
Yes,
player's storyline now.
exactly.
And it's the opportunity that we could also potentially see a
we-
Sally or
Yes.
in the
We've
game.
talked about storylines that are explored in current RuneScape, and maybe if we did an event like on a certain theme, we could have a similar event kind of happening
so tying it
in
in.
the idle game.
And we're talking about subverting existing storylines. That's difficult to do in other ages.
But I wouldn't consider it like hardcore 6th age, as it were.
Yeah.
Like, it's just in the current age of our storyline. So I think an old schooler would have as much joy
as
from
much.
this, as much joy as a kind of current day player would.
Grand.
Like, it's a game for RuneScapers, not a certain type of RuneScaper.
I know that Jones RS from the chat asked the question of, are we going to be showing any game footage?
So we're not at the moment. No.
No.
I'm sorry about that. So we are currently running a bunch of different prototypes that we're getting a lot of feedback on. And as soon as the game gets into a position where you look at it and you're like, that's RuneScape, I can feel it.
Yeah.
Like, then we'll get to a point
Yeah.
and we can.
I think it's
start
safe to say,
showing
I mean,
that.
to give an idea, like you saw a Venture Capitalist, maybe a few people have played a Venture Capitalist. It looks different in that it's kind of tonally very RuneScape, very kind of
Yes.
colourful, but
Yes.
you're picking up iconic RuneScape items, you're going to
Yes.
iconic RuneScape places.
Yeah.
There's so much more than just that game screen.
It's on Gillinor.
Yeah.
You're dealing with the places of Gillinor, the people in Gillinor. If you have a passion for RuneScape, your passion will translate well to this game. But if you're a complete crazy fool who doesn't like RuneScape, you'd still like this game. Like, this isn't a game that only RuneScapers can play. Very much not the case.
Yeah.
We're making it with Hyper Hippo. And they would like to have a game where their adventure capitalist players
come in
could
and
go,
play as well.
no,
Yeah.
I quite enjoy this as well. So we're not making something which only RuneScapers would enjoy. So Idle Adventures is 100% engaging if
Yeah.
you're not a RuneScaper. Although, you know, if you're not a RuneScaper, you should just slap yourself about. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. Get a wet fish, go to the fishmongers, whoopang, and then, you know, I'll see you in Lumbridge.
I really want somebody to video that. That would be great.
There's gifts in this stream already.
There's gifts in this stream already.
Is it people hitting themselves with a wet fish?
So what's
Come on,
the
wet fish gifts. Come on.
I know that we're both emoji. We're both, you know,
Damn straight.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
this is going to be easy enough to do. Surely, just slap us both.
We
with
could
fish.
do a video now for the new emoji. I don't know what it would look like.
Yeah, indeed. Will there be closed or open betas? So that's come from Lieutenant Shadow, and that's a really important question because obviously.
Cool
what's
name.
Yeah.
Cool name. You know, next time I talk to you, I hope you're Captain Shadow because it's important to see progression.
Yeah.
But
Private Shadow. He was never quite. It wasn't particularly anything. It sounds like an 80s power ballad.
Private Shadow. I don't know where I'm going to go from that, Dave. Well done. Will there be closed open betas? Maybe.
Yeah. So that may well happen.
Yeah.
And how much content is aiming to be in the games? That's from MFI Paulio. He's a big fan of furniture superstores.
Yeah, he is.
So that's a joke only for the UK. I apologise.
Only for the UKers.
From about 20 years ago.
furniture, bad furniture that will fall apart immediately. Well, I don't know. That's a very good question. So when we launch, I want there to be a bunch of cool quests. I want there to be a bunch of cool items that I can have. I want to be able to train any skill that I could train in RuneScape. I want to be able to go around a world map and go to cool places and speak to cool people.
Yeah.
There we go.
But
now, don't forget, this is an idle game, right? So
Yeah.
you've got lots of offline progression. So I mean, so I would say that my Adventure Capitalist game has been going for about a year and a half. And there's no off time there because you're always progressing.
Always progressing.
So, you know.
And that's why it fits RuneScape so well.
Yeah,
Because,
I could
you're always
say
progressing.
it's a year and a half's worth of content, but there's no end, like, in ad cap either. So you can't really put a number on the amount of gameplay there'll be.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know.
In terms of kind of crossplay, I know a number of people were asking, particularly on
Yes.
Twitter, on my Twitter.
Yes.
Like, will I be importing my character from RuneScape?
No.
No. And so there won't be any progression made in the game into RuneScape either.
So, linked to the question that we had previously, I don't want people who play RuneScape to have like a massive advantage in this game because they've done like because they've got a character with thousands of hours of gameplay on it. I think the advantage being I understand this world, I get this narrative. I think that's perfectly fine, and that's just an advantage in terms of them enjoying the game, I think, rather than an advantage from a progression perspective. But, of course, if we do have any things that you can earn, then that would effectively link to your character through codes or something like that.
And do you know if the game will have a login feature to save and store data? So that was from Robert Mail.
A
He's probably a
login
man.
feature to save and store data?
So,
what do you mean by that?
So if I deleted the game from
Yes.
my mobile and then I put it back on,
Right?
would I still have all that stored data because I'm logging in? So is it saved in the cloud?
I have no idea.
We'll have to get onto them, won't we? We needed like a
Maybe.
kind of a straight call to them.
Why
We'll get on
would
the
you
red
delete
telephone
it?
to Hyper Hippo.
Or if you want to have it on your tablet and on your phone.
Yes.
Yeah, that's another cross-play thing.
Now, so there is this weird, we're learning more about mobile all the time here. And there is this weird thing about how games can exist across platforms and devices, and it's all a bit messy.
Right, okay.
That's all I can say.
But which platforms is it going to come out for on launch?
So first of all, it'll be out on PC,
Yep.
and then that is number one, so that RuneScapers can get their hands on it straight away, and number two, because it's easier for us to test and try things as a PC game straight away. And then when we've got it to a point that we're happy with it, then we'll be able to put it out on mobile devices, so iOS, Android, etc.,
Gotcha.
etc.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
That is the plan.
And we've got a couple of story questions. So,
Yes.
I Escape I love Zero Escape. Will we be able to interact with the World Guardian? So this is kind of my player character, I guess.
So that's a weird one, because so either you've got generic World Guardian character in this game.
Yep.
So I would imagine there might be references to the World Guardian. Whether you would meet it or not, I don't.
What would they look like?
Yeah, what would they look like?
Yeah, how
and
they
then
act.
of course there's the same issue. It's like I have my own Sally,
Yeah.
and if Sally was ever in the game, what would she look like? So there's a weird thing there because everyone, there are 240 million different World Guardians, and who knows, there might be the same number of Sallys.
Yeah.
Got
And
to give her a better name. It's very weird. Referring to
calling Sally.
the Sally. It's like
in a true RuneScape way,
It's
we
wrestling. It's like a wrestler. The Sally thinks, or whatever. Anyway.
We should go for kind of Mauritanian naming. Go for a true kind of Berberder.
Yes.
A Zona Sig race for.
Safalan.
Yeah, these crazy names we have in Mauritania.
What was his name? Gadarags. That was my favourite one.
Brilliant.
Good old Titan.
Will Idle Adventures receive expansions over time? So you were talking about this a little.
I hope so. Yeah.
Adventure Capitalist has done it in the past. I could certainly imagine like we would do it, something like the Eastern Lands.
Yeah.
Is, that ideal push.
Yeah.
Into the same area that RuneScape is
And
going.
let's be honest, it's not going to launch with everything that there is currently in RuneScape
Yeah.
from a narrative perspective. So it may well be that you'd be like, oh, here's a penguin expansion or, that kind of stuff.
I think. Oh. So what is happening here is that I've got a video playing on my phone. I do apologise. That was very unprofessional of me. And will there be endgame content?
Not safe for work content, Dave. Yeah, seriously.
I won't say what that video was. Will there be endgame content as such, or will it keep going on?
It will keep going on.
Yeah.
Yes. But there
Will there be high score tables?
So I expect that they will, for example, be requirements on the quests.
Yeah.
So it might be I need to be a certain skill level, or I need to have prestiged a certain amount of times before I do that. So I think there will still be a principle of kind of like a beginner, grandmaster quests.
Yeah.
I think that will.
As you're constantly striving
definitely be
towards
the
to do
case.
them.
Yeah, but end game content. Years ago we would have described the KBD as end game content, and now it definitely isn't. So, what is one man's end game is another man's.
Only from the
tutorial,
the screening, the press screening of the film. Andrew was saying that he never expected anyone to get to 99.
Exactly,
which just shows what end game means for various people.
Yeah.
So. We have reached the end of your questions.
Yes.
Hopefully you have a good sense of what RuneScape Idle Adventures is about. You now know that it's coming hopefully in the spring.
That's the plan.
That's it to PC. So you'll be able to play it there. And hopefully you're already excited. I'm already thinking about how I'm going to customise my Sally. And hopefully you will too. I don't see a problem with that. Okay. And if you've got any more questions about RS Idle Adventures, please do kind of talk to us at JagX Osborne.
Yes. Or JagX _Mark.
Mark, that's right.
I believe
that's it.
That's me, totally underscore.
Ask us questions, we'll get back to you as soon as possible. And maybe in future live streams we can talk to you a bit more and maybe even show some footage.
Yes.
Because I'm sure a lot of people are interested in how it looks.
Yeah.
That would be grand.
Yeah. I think also another interesting thing, of course, is, we're learning so much as a studio now by doing games like this. It's really beneficial for us to work with external people because we learn all sorts of different things for them, and all this education in this space sets us very well for the future.
Awesome. Okay, so thank you very much for watching, and hope you'll enjoy RuneScape Idle Adventures in the future.
Bye.